Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
Trojans. USC Trojan fans everywhere. Fight on. Student Body Right, USC podcast. Dwayne Douglas here, along with a friend of the podcast, Professor. With those glasses, you remind me of a professor I used to have. Keep those glasses going. Phil Robinson's the third. How you doing today, Phil?
I'm doing well. Actually. It's funny that you comment on my glasses. I just found them after about a 3 to 4 month hiatus.
That's funny. You always find you clean up your house a little bit. Where'd you find them at? And was it in the car or was it in the house?
Yeah, it was my wife who found it.
Oh, okay. There you go. Teamwork makes the dream work. Catch us on YouTube. Catch us on any of the podcast platforms, iHeartRadio, whatever you want. Apple Podcasts, all those good things like that. And Phil Robinson fancies himself as a quality writer, and he is that. So can you talk about all the writing platforms that can find you as well?
You can find me at LA Football Network. I mean, you would have thought that would have been the introduction my man led with here, but I'm a friend of the program as well. But I cover the UFC Trojans for LA Football Network, and that's where you can find all my Trojan writing. I also cover the Raiders at Raider Ramble. You can find RaiderRamble.com. I have my own podcast, The Unfiltered Truth. Actually working on a new channel as well, Truly Filthy Combat. I'll let you in on that when we get that up and running. But I'm all over the place. Why? Because sports is life.
Yes, it is.
You can see some of the most redeeming qualities, and you can see some of the ugliest at the same time.
Yes, that's very true. So I NIL is going to be the topic for a century now. I guess it's everybody's talking about it. Saban and Jimbo had their little battle. Going back and forth as if no player has ever received any cash whatsoever. Wink, wink.
Not in Alabama.
No, not Alabama. No, people just go to Tuscaloosa just because it's beautiful, right? In the fall all the time. What are your thoughts about? Go ahead.
Brothers from Cali want to go to Alabama in the deep South because
brother from Hawaii. Isn't there tours from Hawaii? You want to go all the way across country to go there? Well, I wonder why. I wonder why. It's just he had all these guys have inklings to go to the South. What are your thoughts about what the whole thing that Saban said, and that whole battle with Jimbo? It's kind of, to me, it's like a lot to do about nothing. They're both a part of this whole thing, and they gotta whatever their alumni has or their collectives have, they gotta pony up because if they want big time players, SC's back.
First and foremost, I'd say I would completely disagree with you that it was much ado about nothing. It was an acknowledgement that the run is at its end, that Alabama will no longer be the recruiting nightmare that it used to be because it financially just cannot keep up. No university, with the exception of your Ivy League schools, probably Harvard or whatnot, schools that don't pay attention to sports, has the pockets to keep up with the University of Southern California. Paying players is what they do best.
And I don't see, at the end of the day, they cannot play this sport for a long period of time. Let's just call it like it is. They can't, but you cannot play college football, pro football. The average career is very short. And they should be able to bank on that. These NCAA is making billions, dude.
They're starting the football game all over again. They're bringing, and I got to tell you, there was a time I would rather play NCAA than Matt.
Yes, that's true. That's very true. That's very true. So that game is coming back. I think this might have been started with the Ed O'Bannon, like, with the college basketball. I remember they had Coach K college basketball, right? I used to love that game. And he's like, wait a minute, well, I'm bald headed skinny dude and wearing number 31 with my same outfit on at UCLA. Yeah, where's my money? And I think it's, they have been, you're a player, you see your name in lights, you see your name in the stands, you see your jerseys in the stands, you see shirts with your face on it. How could you not want a piece of that? And I think you deserve a piece of that. And I'm not sure why this got so many people with their panties in a bunch. I have no idea why, but for Alabama, yeah, I do think this is going to be some of the last pieces of the puzzle. You look at Jordan Addison going to a already stacked wide receiver room to go play with USC. That says a lot.
So let's talk about that wide receiver room since you called it stacked. Because I went back and I happened to look up some stats, and that wide receiver room wasn't quite as stacked as it sounds like it should be. I think Mario Williams finished with under 500 yards receiving. Brendan Rice had maybe 330, I think it was 324, 323, something like that. Though now you get your Biletnikoff Award winner in Addison, and for an offense that's predominantly where the slot is the big major weapon, and with the types of routes that he'll be running from the slot, this was a colossal get for Riley. And now, but as I mentioned, the guys in their yardages and their other schools, now you have these guys slide down to where they're supposed to be in their proper slot on the depth chart. You got the alpha dog, Jordan Addison. Now you got twos and threes and a couple of fours. And I like where they're at now, because if defenses are going to key off on Addison, which they rightfully should, those other guys should eat a lot. And then to boot, you give Caleb Williams that type of firepower. And let's be generous and let's say that this year's Pac-12 conference in terms of defensive backs ain't very good. They're going to have, or at least they're unproven and going to have to prove themselves.
Also, when I look at it too, is like when you have like your number one corner against a guy like Addison, and that they're going to move him around, do things to make it so you can't jam him at the line of scrimmage. They're going to get him the ball in a myriad of ways. Like, I'm going to always take my third and fourth wide receiver against somebody's third and fourth corner. Especially in a conference like this. You're going to be, this is a great opportunity for them. And I still think, and I also think that the tight end, Malcolm Epps, is going to have a big year too as well. He's going to be a unique piece for this offensive unit going forward with USC as well. So I see what you're saying about the rest of the wide receivers. They weren't playing necessarily with great quarterbacks, but I do see your point. Like, the guy who is, you're not forcing somebody to be a one who's not a one. And that's a good point. Like, you have that one. It's crazy that, this channel is USC football and Las Vegas Raiders. And it's kind of crazy. I never would have, a year ago today, if somebody said, you know what, on May 31st, Jordan Addison would be a Trojan and Devontae Adams would be a Raider, you would have been like, no, I'm sorry, that's not happening. But that's what
I'm betting the negative.
Exactly. but it's good to see that both those teams and end up with the best receivers in their sports as far as that goes. A couple questions here real quick. One question about Mario Williams and Addison, like who's gonna have more catches. I think there's no question it's gonna be Addison. I think Addison. I think Mario Williams. I give Mario Williams a lot of credit too, because he's a guy who is also trying to play baseball there as well too. And I think next year he's gonna be trying to play baseball at SC as well. Well-rounded athlete. So, but in the slot, he's gonna have fun. He's gonna have a lot of fun. He's gonna have a lot of fun calling plays in this offense here going forward. And they should be one of the top 10 offenses in all football and all college football.
I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, they gotta be.
They
gotta be.
No.
They gotta be.
There's two parts to an offense, and the passing game looks phenomenal. You talking about that running game? Not so much. We'll have to pump the brakes. Got to pump the brakes on that because
good. So yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say between the three running backs that they're trotting out there now, if you're expecting the three of them to go over 150 per game, you're going to be severely disappointed.
So here's my thing, and this is why I like having you on, because we're gonna disagree. We're disagreeing. That's fine. When they are spread out, and then they want to run the football, I mean, that's going to be an opportunity for them to get some big yardage there. I mean, you're talking about no, they're not going to. So USC is not going to be able to run the football at all. I mean, not at all, but like at a high clip with is it the running backs or the offensive line you're thinking? The backs. So you're not in love with Dye and Barlow and Jones and Raleek, right? Okay, fair enough.
None of that. None of it screams dynamicism to me. We're talking about SC. We're talking about Lindell. We're talking about Reggie Bush. We're talking about OJ. We're talking about Marcus Allen. We're talking about any host of who's Hall of Fame running backs. And I'm not saying Reggie Bush or Lindell White were Hall of Fame running backs. But
in college they were.
In college they were the shit. And you place anybody on that roster up next to those particular lights of beacons, and they fall woefully short. And in order to be a top 10 offense in the NCAA, you got to have the passing game. And I'm not saying you got to have all of those guys, but you need to have at least one or two guys that could match that level of productivity. And between the three of them, all of them could match the productivity of one of those guys.
The burst, the explosiveness isn't there.
Or the power. I'd still take Lindell White over all three of them combined.
Okay. I think they run the ball a little bit better than you think, but I understand the point. I respect the point. No question about it. I
watched the spring game. Let's go ahead and let's really be honest now.
Yeah.
Everything that you saw in terms of running game in the spring game was against a very bad defensive front.
How many? But in the Pac-12, what defensive front? Utah probably. What the Oregon? I mean, what defensive fronts are you really, really concerned with?
Or the better question is that whose defensive front isn't better than USC's?
I understand.
So when you're talking, when you can only be as good in practice as guys that you practice against. And when they go to play against better competition who are more able than the guys that they practice against, they're going to struggle. And because they're going to struggle, pass protection appears to be their strength. And so spreading it out and throwing it quickly will be how they equalize it or running the screen game. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the gun running style that they employ with the draws, the counters, maybe the halfback sweep and a fly sweep, that's going to get shut down by more physical fronts or fast linebackers.
On the defensive side, saw an interview with Alex Grinch today about the defensive line and what he wants to do. This is the part of the team where I am concerned about the defensive line. I mean, I'm definitely. He talked about pass rush and being able to get to the quarterback, and that's a starting point, especially in this world where you have to pass, you have to rush the passer. That's going to be the biggest point for me, biggest point of concern for me, because you don't want to be out here blitzing every 5 seconds.
You can't sustain that. And looking at it, the easiest way to defend USC's offense is to keep it off the field. Now, the sad part is that I don't believe that the run defense is going to be able to keep other teams out of the end zone if they choose to commit to it. Because, like I said, I watched the spring game and I watched an offense that was questionable at best. Their run offense that I thought was questionable at best put some solid numbers up against that defense.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, that's going to be the part where I do like Gentry, the transfer from ASU. I do like some of the players they picked up there in the transfer portal. Shane Lee is kind of he's probably going to be the Mike linebacker. So you have that as well. But no question about the fact that they are definitely going to be a team they're going to have to be creative. And if you have to be creative with a pass rush, there's going to be times where you just need your front four to get there. Like you just need to be able to do that. And I think the only thing that they can really kind of do is take that opening kickoff or that opening drive, try to get up early on teams, try to force some turnovers. That's going to be the biggest thing. I mean, if they can get turnovers, that's going to be the biggest equalizer. But if you're not pressuring the quarterback, it's going to be difficult to get turnovers.
So I was just getting ready to ask you on this particular defense, where do you see them getting turnovers from?
I mean, that's hard to say because there's times where people just play as a unit and you're able to get turnovers because everybody's playing together in the right spot. But there's going to be times where, like I said, like the majority of everybody talks about like creativity defensively, whether it's the NFL or if it's the or college football, but you need at times to be able to have your front four get pressure. And I just don't necessarily see where they're going to be able to get that pressure from. And that's that's my probably the biggest concern that I have.
Now, I had lost count of when you had actually started talking, but I'm pretty sure that I listened to roughly about 2 minutes of you dodging my question and not.
I'm not dodging it. I don't see a guy on this on the defensive line who is, Alice Grinch talked about
the totality of the whole thing. You said they got to get turnovers. I said, where are they going to get them from? Because I'm looking at the defensive backfield. I'm not holding my breath back there. Are they going to get it from the front four? Their best bet is probably going to get them from their defensive ends on strip sacks. Now, where the defensive ends are probably the strong point of this defense. The problem is that they're giving up so much up the middle and so much on the back end of the defense that even with decent linebackers, that's asking an awful lot of just two defensive ends.
Yeah.
And while I say I like them and say that they're the strength of this defense, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're about to be some world beaters either.
No, because they're not. And Alice Grinch talked about it today, where he was talking about having like guys who are like, this is about having NFL type talent on this team. And he said, and they don't have that right. I mean, he didn't say they didn't have that right now, but I don't know if they have that on the defensive side. I think on the offensive side, I could see a bunch of guys get drafted, but on the defensive side, it's going to be when Stanford lines up and heavy personnel and sits there and says, we have the opening kickoff. I'm not putting the ball, and David Shaw says, I'm not going to put the ball in the air this entire goddamn game until you show you can stop it. That's where game 2 at Stanford is going to be like a frustrating game. I mean, you're going to be frustrated because he's not going to sit there and allow you to go crazy, throwing the ball all over the face without him showing his physicality as a head coach. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I mean, they're going to be as physical as humanly possible. And there's two teams and there's a couple teams in this run here where they're going to be really physical. And I think that second game is going to be huge because you're going to give them a smoke Rice. Everybody will be happy and they'll score 50 points against Rice, and everybody will go home and be like, okay, we feel good about it. And then when they go at Stanford, it's going to be a whole different story because he always has big guys, always has double tight ends, all that stuff like that. And that's going to be a game where if they can win that game and show they can stop them running that game, then I'll feel much better about the team. But I just going to be difficult to see them do that.
Oh, without a doubt. I don't see it happening either. I was hoping that somehow they'd be able to just simply outscore Stanford. And so if they can get it to turn into some type of track meet, or if by some
get a game in the 30s, right? Get a game in the 30s.
They might have to get to the 40s. And actually, you said if they only put up 40 or 50 against Rice, I'm actually going to be even pretty concerned myself with that, because Rice should be of no consequence to this football team. It doesn't matter who Rice puts on the field. They shouldn't be able to compete with the talent that's out there.
Yeah, no question about it. No question about it. It's going to be, like I said, it's not, they're in a good place. They're not in the best place. And I think that's the thing that we have to be, I think people got to be real about. It's exciting because they're building it back up, but they need to get those big time defensive pieces back at USC for them to really take off as far as that. You mentioned the spring game. What were some of your other takeaways from the spring game?
Tight ends are going to be huge, both of them. Mm-hmm. So I know you mentioned one, but they have two. The big African American gentleman is a monster, and I can't wait to see him. That's going to be the sneaky link of this offense that a lot of people overlook, is just how much work they're getting ready to do in the intermediate area, in between the hashes, about 5 to 15 yards in the middle of the field, working out towards the numbers, dragging across, blocking. These guys are going to be some horses for this football team, and they're going to break other teams down because they just don't have enough guys to cover everyone.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I do like that point too as well, because I mean there are plenty of times in a football game where you just need, it's 3rd and 6, you just need 7, and that's where tight ends come into play. I like that. Malcolm Epps is really a guy who is kind of taking a leadership role in that tight end room, and he's going to be a guy who's just going to be, it's a hard matchup. He's a tough matchup, kind of like a slash wide receiver / tight end, and he's gonna be able to keep things going down, keep the chains moving, and be able to make some big plays as well. So look out for him, along with the rest of the Trojans and their wide receiver core as far as that goes.
Mark Andrews was from Oklahoma, right?
So who you talking about?
Mark Andrews, the tight end for the Ravens.
Mark Andrews. I don't remember where he's from. Wow, what school he's from. I can find out in 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds. I can find out where he's from. Mark Andrews. He of the 140 targets last year. Mark Andrews for the Ravens. Just like unreal. He went to Oklahoma.
And who was his head coach?
Gotta be. He's 26 years old, so I would say he probably played for Lincoln, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He played for Lincoln, so yeah. I mean, he is a great pass catcher. So
yeah, because he was playing with Baker, wasn't he? Yeah, he played for Lincoln.
So he played for Lincoln.
So Ty, you got the best slot receiver. You got the best tight end right off the bat. What does that sound like? If I were to equivalent that to the professional game, what does that sound like?
I don't know. You tell me. What does that sound like?
It's kind of chiefish.
A little bit.
A little cheapish, with a mobile quarterback, with a rocket for an arm, best slot receiver, number one tight end type who can get a lot of work done, with an average core of running backs.
That sounds like the Chiefs for real. Like the Chiefs.
Just saying, make a couple connections.
Yeah, that's true. That is definitely true. And what he can do in the open, I mean, the guy can do so much stuff in the open space. I really can't watching going through the tape and watching like Jordan Addison and watching him work. I mean, he got Kenny Pickett to Pittsburgh. Like, I mean, they work both together. They work well together. But they both did. I mean, he did a great job last year for them. So I mean, I'm excited. I get more and more excited about that.
I had actually written a story on Jordan Addison, and it was really hard for me to try to evaluate his game at first, because I was like, I was watching the highlight tape, and I watched it for about a solid 2 minutes, got maybe to about 2 minutes and 30 seconds before I saw him make a contested catch.
Mm-hmm.
And that worried the shit out of me, because I'm like, okay, I mean, on one hand, I guess I should be happy that this dude is this wide open. But at some point, if somebody covers him, what's he gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw him work back to the ball, saw him go out high pointed, do everything that he needed to be able to do in order to make catches in this league and probably the next. And then I went right back to feeling all goo goo gaga all over again.
Yeah. I think it was, I don't know if it was that play where Pickett rolled to the right and threw it a little short and high, and then he just took the ball away from the defensive back and ended up almost scoring a touchdown on that play. I think that was the one play where I thought it was a really good job of a contested catch situation. But yeah, I mean, are you comparing them to what the Chiefs have done or could possibly be? I think they do. I think they do kind of match up a little bit.
Constructed. That's
constructed. Yeah.
What their production remains to be seen, but with the type of receivers that they have, got some fast receivers, got some big guys, got a little bit of everything. It's constructed much the same way that they did. They're running a run and shoot spread type of variety.
Yeah, they got that. They do have all those pieces right there as well. Player wants to know, what's the goal, points per game goal for this team?
35.
35. It's 35 points a game. So 35 points a game. I think that's realistic and reachable, I think. But they do have to, they're going to have to do that. I mean, they're going to have to be, this defense is going to put, I mean, in the essence of the Chiefs, they, if you look at the construction, like they do have to kind of score first and then try to hold the lead with a pass rush and maybe blitzing players. Question about Miller Moss. I don't know. I mean, Miller Moss he's the one who's probably taking shots at Clay Helton the most, and also been a guy who is really liking this offense and liking what he, obviously, if he's playing a majority of the season, then it's not a good season for USC. But if any backup quarterback, you just want to be able to come in and be functional. So if he can get comfortable and be functional in his offense, that makes sense. And then last one would be Malik Brown.
Miller Moss, to be honest with you.
Say again?
Yeah, I said I think you're underselling Miller Moss, to be honest with you. Now, I don't expect him to go out and produce as well as Caleb Williams does, because he doesn't have the same ability with the legs. But watching him throw the football in the spring game, if he can rein his decision making under control and make good decisions, I think he'd be every bit as capable to execute this offense as Williams would, at least throwing the football.
That's what, and that's what, and to your point, that's what I've been hearing, is that he's a guy who has been, he feels like, they feel like he can come in, if he had to come in for a couple of games and play, then he could do that. And I'm kind of excited to see if that ever did take place, to kind of see what he can do, because he's loving his offense. He's loving the style of this offense right now.
I'm gonna shock you one more time, because you glossed over that. I don't think the drop off is that big. The drop off is the running ability. If you look at it, Caleb Williams has been in this offense how long? 1 year, not even a full year. He took over for early in the year. He took over for Spencer Rattler. But it still wasn't a full year. So Miller Moss is a year behind him.
Yeah,
not a couple months. So, and as a pocket passer, I would argue he's probably more equipped to be a pocket passer than Caleb Williams is. And Lincoln Riley's made it work with pocket passers. He's made it work with mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So there's the drop off isn't as steep as everybody thinks it is. It's not like he's been in this offense putting up 40 touchdowns a year for the last 3 seasons.
Yeah. So it's not the drop off from like, it's not a drop off like he's Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Listen, and that all bodes well for USC as far as that goes. So if they have a backup quarterback who can come in and play, that makes this team even more dangerous. I don't. I mean, I know everybody. I know people look at the modern day highlights of Malik Brown. I get a lot of questions about Malik Brown. Like, I just, like, I think it's more screen game, all kind of stuff like that. We'll see how much time he gets on the field. He still has to get, and Division I college football weight up too as well, as far as that goes. And you got to be careful with that, because you don't want him to get too big. You see, you want him to keep his fluidity and keep his ability to be explosive, because that's what you want to see him do. And he could be a guy who comes in and does some things, but for him, he's not going to be getting handed the ball 30 times a game. So he'll be there in spot duty in his first year.
And that's exactly where he needs to be, and that's where this particular backfield will benefit him. Is that those plotters? I'll call them plotters, because I expect them to be somewhere in the 4.5 to 5 yards per carry average, but I expect that's where it's going to end, is at that 4 foot or at that 4/5 yard. That's just that'll just be the direction of the run game. But about if you bring him in after halftime or once you've seen the defense get noticeably winded, that'll be the spark that will ignite the offense and make it look like they're ready to take that next level and go the distance. I also agree with you. He needs to get his body back in shape, but playing down at Mater Day, they're used to playing. He's used to playing as big as it gets.
Yeah.
I mean, it may not be the same as playing high school ball down in Florida, but I mean, at Mater Day, he's getting the best that California has to offer, and that's nothing to sneer at.
No, I just don't know. I think he obviously fits. He obviously is a guy who can make some just extra. He is just, him in the open field is just a beautiful thing to watch. And we'll see. I mean, injuries happen. And we'll see how much time he'll get on the football field. We gotta head out. I want to talk a little National Basketball Association, because the Warriors are in the finals and somebody is from the Bay Area. So before you go, I think game one should be very interesting. I think that the Warriors need to just handle business and be careful. Don't let Boston hang around and sneak a game in these first two. If they go up 2-0, it's over. If it's 1-1, it could be a long series. I'm gonna give a little bit of respect to the Celtics and go Warriors in 6. But I do feel like the Warriors here will grab the title here. Without there'll be a moment here where you might worry, but then I think at the end of the day, no injuries happening. Both teams are healthy. Boston can't, survive a bad shooting game by Tatum, where the Warriors can survive that game with Steph. What are your thoughts about the NBA Finals?
Warriors in 3, baby. Warriors in 3.
It could be.
But I expect Boston will present them a challenge, and it'll truly depend on how Kerr chooses to deploy his bench. I think that at the strength of what they do, Boston's athleticism is better than the Warriors' starting 5. They're going to have to get athletic from their bench, and they're going to have to not be afraid to go to it and get out there and let some of that youth start running some of the exuberance of the Celtics defense. Now, in terms of scoring, I like the Warriors matchups better than Boston's matchup or Boston's scores, because everybody can shoot on the Warriors. And I mean, everyone, like you said, that Boston's not going to be able to survive a bad shooting night, and they certainly aren't going to put the clamps on the Warriors like they did Miami.
Yeah, no question about it. I really do. I think Boston's defense is going to give them issues. I think that, whether or not they call the flops by Marcus Smart or not, who knows if they call it or not. But I do like the Warriors here as far as that goes.